Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Today is September 16th, and I am here to share with you reading progress for my thriller, horror, dark academia, mystery TBR, which is an ongoing TBR throughout the months of September and October. I will do a final wrap-up of the top 10 favorite books in this TBR in the fall wrap-up video that Matt and I have coming out at the end of November. That video will be out on November 27th. To begin with this reading progress TBR, we have a reread of If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I read this book earlier this year, like back in January or February, and I loved it. This takes place at a prestigious high school for kids who study Shakespeare. And as a Shakespeare lover myself, actually, another book I'm reading on this TBR is a Shakespeare play, which we will get to in a moment. So this is a murder mystery because the main character in this book, Oliver, is just being released from jail after being in prison for 10 years for killing somebody from his school. So basically, this goes into like the flashbacks of what happened with the murder, and it's very interesting, and I just love the atmosphere of this book and the fact that it's set around performing Shakespeare plays. The play they are performing in this book is called Benvolio. Oh. One of the characters in the Shakespeare play that they are doing in this book is Benvolio, and I'm sure it's mentioned in here somewhere what play this is because I don't remember. So if you can remember which Shakespeare play Benvolio is in, I think maybe they're doing The Tempest, but I'm not totally sure. So I highly recommend this book if you like Shakespeare. M.L. Rio has a new book coming out at the end of this month called Graveyard Shift, which I'm really excited to read for book club at Print Bookstore. The next reread I am reading right now is called The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I picked this up at the bookstore in January as soon as I got the recommendation from Sarah Caroli. So this book is the first in a trilogy of series that focuses on a housemaid named Nina who works in a mansion for a rich family called the Winchesters. And I don't want to spoil anything, but this plot keeps me on the edge of my seat the whole entire time I've been reading it. And in my reread, I am on page 212, and If We Were Villains, I am on page 322. The next book I am reading for this TBR is a book I borrowed from my mother-in-law, Sally. It's called Haunted Ground by Erin Hart, and this is a mystery book that is set in Ireland, and I really love the scenery in this book because as somebody who has never been to Ireland, it makes me really want to go there. And there's mentioning of people playing fiddle in this book, and I can see why my mother-in-law loves this book because she and her husband, my father-in-law, Paul, play the fiddle. The next book is a book I borrowed from my friend Kate a couple weeks ago. It's called The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chonsky. And Sarah, without an H, raved about this book in her top 23 books of 2023 wrap-up video last year. If you would like to see her opinions of it, please please go down to my description box and click the link. So I will read you what this is about. A sumptuous Gothic-infused story about a marriage that is unraveled by dark secrets, a friendship cursed to end in tragedy, and the danger of believing in fairy tales. The breathtaking adult debut from New York Times best-selling author Roshani Chonsky. Once upon a time, a man believed in fairy tales, married a beautiful, mysterious woman named Indigo Maxwell Castaneda. He was a scholar of myths. She was the heiress to a fortune. They exchanged gifts and stories and believed they would live happily ever after. In exchange for her love, Indigo extracted a promise that her bridegroom would never pry into her past. But when Indigo learns that her estranged aunt is dying and the couple is forced to return to her childhood home, the House of Dreams, the bridegroom will soon find himself unable to resist. For the crumbling manors, extravagant rooms, and musty halls lurks the shadows of another girl, Azure, Indigo's dearest childhood friend, who suddenly disappeared. As the house slowly reveals his wife's secrets, the bridegroom will be forced to choose between reality and fantasy, even if doing so threatens his marriage or his life. Combining the lush, haunting atmosphere of Mexican Gothic and the dreamy enchantment of the invisible life of Addie LaRue, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride is a spellbinding adult debut from New York Times bestselling author Roshani Chonsky. It's a darkly romantic page-turner about love, lies, secrets, and betrayal, and the stories we tell ourselves to survive. This book was so good. I could not step away from it from 2 minutes without finding out what would happen next. So the best part about this book was probably the setting of the Gothic house that the main character Indigo goes back to take care of her aunt. I loved that setting, and I also loved the setting in Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, which I read last month and gave 4 stars to. This book also got 4.5 stars. The next book I'm reading is Macbeth by William Shakespeare. I am on a kick for reading all of Shakespeare's plays right now as part of my books that I read in school that I am reading to give a second chance to see if my opinions change TBR. I don't remember if I ever read this book while I was in school, but I read Romeo and Juliet, As You Like It, and I think maybe The Tempest. So I am on page 92. I just started this 5 minutes ago, actually. And I really like this so far. The next book is Silver Nitrate. This is by the same author as Mexican Gothic. And what I really like about this book is that it focuses on movies. And it's about a movie person who makes movies in Mexico. And I'm really enjoying the fact that this book is based on a movie director. The other book that I just finished that I returned to the library the other day, The House That Horror Built by Christina Henry, 5 stars. It's my first Christina Henry book. It was recommended to me by Jordaline because it's her Patreon book club book for this month. I don't have Patreon, so I can't do the book club meeting, but I just wanted to say that I really love this book by Christina Henry. I love the vibes of the spooky house. I love the fact that she was working for a retired movie director, because the movie director's house was filled with all these props and costumes, and it was just really cool. So I will read you guys what Silver Nitrate is about. Montserrat has always been overlooked. She's a talented sound editor, but she's left out of the boys' club running the film industry in 90s Mexico City. And she is all but invisible to her best friend Tristan, a charming if faded soap opera star, though she's been in love with him since childhood. Then Tristan discovers that his new neighbor is the cult horror director Abel Urrea, and the legendary auteur claims that he can change the lives, even if his tale of a Nazi occultist imbuing magic into highly volatile silver nitrate stock sounds like sheer fantasy. The magic film was never finished, which is why Urrea swears his career vanished overnight. He is cursed. Now the director wants Montserrat and Tristan to help him with shooting the missing scene and lift the curse, but Montserrat soon notices a dark presence following her, and Tristan begins seeing the ghost of his ex-girlfriend. As they work together to unravel the mystery of the film and the obscure occultist who once roamed the city, Montserrat and Tristan find the sorceress and magic are not only the stuff of movies. In Silver Nitrate, Silvia Moreno Garcia conjures a tale of movie magic and supernatural suspense. So I just started this book on Friday, and I am on page 126. I am really loving how the plot line is building up. If you have not read this book or Mexican Gothic before, I can highly recommend this book. And I think this book will also be 4 stars like Mexican Gothic was. The next book is a book I've seen on a few people's YouTube channels. Gabby Reads has reviewed it, so has With Cindy. I think maybe Riley and Sarah Without an H have also reviewed it. It's called Chlorine by Jade Song, and this is about a girl who is a swimmer for her high school swim team who finds out she is turning into a mermaid. And this plot really intrigued me because, as you know, one of my favorite Disney movies of all time has always been The Little Mermaid. And I guess that's what intrigued me to read this book. I recently got into horror books this year after going through many years of not reading horror because I thought the books were too scary. This book is not scary at all. I haven't been scared yet. And Silver Nitrate is not that scary either, from what I can tell. The next book I wanted to talk about is Chlorine by Neil Gaiman. I also got another book by Neil Gaiman for my birthday called Norse Mythology, which my husband gave me for my birthday. So for those of you who are not familiar, this book was turned into a movie by Henry Selick, who made The Nightmare Before Christmas and Paranorman and movies like that. I loved this book. I could not put it down. It's really short. It's only 160 pages. The thing that freaked me out the most about this book was the illustrations, and I can see where Henry Selick got his inspiration for some of the characters, like look, doesn't this look scary? It definitely makes me scared. So I have never seen the Chlorine movie, but I'm hoping to see if I can find it at the library because the 10th anniversary edition of the movie just came out last October. So I'm hoping to either find it on Netflix or Amazon or at the library because I have never seen it before. So I gave this book 4 stars. The next book is another Frida McFadden book called Never Lie. I read this book for the second time this month. I read it first off in January during the winter because I needed a cozy thriller book to keep my mind guessing, and the plot twists in this book are insane. Frida McFadden is definitely one of my favorite thriller authors besides Lucy Foley. I recently had read my first book by Lucy Foley last week. It's called The Guest List, and I really love the setting of that because it's set at a wedding in Scotland. Speaking of books about weddings, the last book I wanted to talk about is a mystery book I just could not get into. The twists were not twisting. I just couldn't get engaged in the plot. I thought the fact that this was Reese's book club pick for July. She needs to do a really better job of picking thrillers. The thriller from her backlist that I read a couple weeks ago is called Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister, and currently I am waiting to get First Light Winds by Ashley Alston out of the library, which was her pick for January. This book just did not hit with me. I thought the main character, Ellery, was sort of annoying, and that her and her two friends, Ravi and Nina, were sort of annoying because they were trying to insert themselves into problems that were not their own, because they pretty much invited themselves to this person's wedding because they were staying at the same hotel, but they did not even know the people who were getting married. So that's what I didn't like about this book. This book kind of reminds me of The Perfect Couple by Elin Hildenbrand because it's about a murder that happens at a wedding, but I really like The Perfect Couple much better than this book. So I gave this book 2.5 stars because I love the wedding. I love the setup of the plot, but it was just executed very poorly. And I also love the scene of the fancy hotel where the wedding was taking place. So yeah, that's it. That is my reading progress so far for my thriller horror dark academia TBR. I will be doing a separate video with my general TBR wrap up that will also talk a little bit more about my favorite books on the TBR that I made back in the summer, where I was rereading books that I read in school and analyzing if my opinions have changed. So yeah, thank you. Have a great day, everybody.